In 1956, English Electric and the Ministry of Supply started considering a replacement for the Canberra. The Canberra, a notable jet bomber from the early 1950s, was quickly becoming obsolete due to advancements in aviation technology and military tactics. As the Cold War intensified, the United Kingdom recognised the necessity of developing a more advanced aircraft to maintain its strategic advantage and meet the evolving demands of modern warfare. Before we jump in, a huge shout out to our sponsor, War Thunder. This free-to-play game on PC and consoles offers the ultimate vehicle combat experience. With over 2,500 vehicles, from vintage planes to modern fighter jets, there's something for everyone. War Thunder stands out for its incredible realism. Each vehicle is meticulously detailed, down to the engine, fuel tanks, and crew. Your shots truly matter. You can target specific components to take down enemies. Plus, the X-ray view shows exactly how your tank or your enemies got hit. There are 3 game modes to suit your style: Arcade for fast-paced action, Simulator for the ultimate challenge, and Realistic for a balanced experience. Customize your vehicles with a variety of camouflages, historical markings, and community creations. War Thunder runs smoothly even on low-end machines, so you don't need top-tier hardware to join the fun. Join over 70 million players worldwide for an epic multiplayer experience. Play War Thunder now for free on PC, PlayStation or Xbox, using the link in the pinned comment or video description. New and returning players get a bonus pack with premium vehicles, the exclusive Eagle of Valor Decorator, 100k Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium. But hurry, it's limited time only. Thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Now, let's get back to it. During the mid-1950s, the geopolitical environment was characterized by a tense standoff between NATO and the Warsaw Pact, with both sides advancing their weaponry and defense systems. The Ministry of Supply, responsible for ensuring the UK's military readiness, sought an aircraft capable of fulfilling multiple roles: tactical strike, reconnaissance, and nuclear delivery. This aircraft needed to penetrate heavily defended airspace, operate at low altitudes to evade radar detection, and execute precise strikes on enemy targets. Given its success with the Canberra, English Electric was seen as a prime candidate to develop this next-generation aircraft. The Ministry of Supply issued a requirement for a new tactical strike reconnaissance aircraft to meet several critical needs. It had to be supersonic to outrun and outmaneuver threats, have an extended operational range to reach distant targets without refueling, and incorporate advanced avionics and electronic countermeasures for mission success in hostile environments. The project aimed to create an aircraft embodying the latest in aeronautical engineering, addressing existing aircraft limitations and anticipating future threats. The design focused on speed, agility, and survivability, reflecting the strategic need for a versatile and powerful platform capable of various mission profiles. The TSR-2 was envisioned as a key element in the UK's defence strategy, providing both conventional and nuclear deterrence. Progress continued as Vickers and English Electric worked together to merge their designs into a single proposal. By July 1959, they had submitted a new design, which visually resembled English Electric's P-17 Alpha, despite concerns about the restrictive specification and incomplete design work. They agreed on work sharing, though detailed arrangements were lacking. The first flight was scheduled for March 1963, with service entry by January 1966. However, the contract, expected by late 1959, was only awarded in October 1960, a year late. Delays had begun even before manufacturing started, signalling potential issues. Meanwhile, in 1960, the British Aircraft Corporation was formed, and with the eventual consolidation of Hawker-Siddeley, much of the British aviation industry would be encompassed within BAC and Hawker-Siddeley. The government examined American project management and development methods and, while eventually acknowledging their superiority over traditional British methods, struggled to implement these improved practices effectively. In practice, the government's adaptation discarded the positive aspects and retained the negative, transforming the new efficient management techniques into a bloated and inefficient bureaucracy within the aviation industry. Despite these issues and poor cooperation among BAC, the Ministry of Aviation and various subcontractors, design and manufacturing continued. The Ministry's heavy-handed involvement extended into the aircraft's design and manufacture, including taking control of the cockpit's layout. They often held 3-hour meetings to decide the placement of a single switch, frequently making incorrect decisions. This contrasted sharply with the Vulcan cockpit design, where Chief Test Pilot Rolly Falk designed the cockpit himself, arguing that a pilot should determine the layout. BAC had been in talks with the Australians and anticipated a significant export order for the TSR-2. However, Lord Louis Mountbatten, the first Sea Lord, was known for his opposition to the TSR-2 and his strong support for the Buccaneer. The RAF had previously tried to halt the Buccaneer's engine development, which Mountbatten never forgave. The Ministry of Aviation failed to announce a firm order for the RAF and could not provide a firm price for the Australians, while the Americans offered an attractive deal on the F-111. Mountbatten also influenced the Australians by pointing out they could buy many more Buccaneers than TSR-2s, and the Buccaneer was nearly as good. Consequently, in October 1963, the Australians chose to buy the F-111, eliminating the TSR-2's export prospects. Meanwhile, engine development issues arose. The all-new Bristol-Siddeley Olympus engines faced various problems, including the destruction of a Vulcan testbed aircraft on the ground, delaying the TSR-2's first flight. The cause of the engine problems was finally identified in September, just days before the TSR-2's scheduled first flight. However, with increasing pressure on the project and a looming general election that was expected to result in a change of government, it was decided to proceed with the flight. BAC hoped that showcasing a flying aircraft to the new government would strengthen the project's foundations. The final decision rested with BAC's chief test pilot, Roland Beaumont. Despite the engine issues, incomplete equipment, and anticipated problems with the undercarriage and braking parachute, he chose to proceed with the flight, accepting the risk for a single attempt. Had an engine failed during this first flight, the remaining engine would have needed to run at maximum, potentially leading to disaster. On September 27th, the first flight took place. The prototype flew and performed as expected. Beaumont described the flight as a very good start. However, the prototype was not representative of an operational version at this stage. With engine power limitations, many systems missing, and no attempts to retract the undercarriage due to space constraints and rough field requirements. After the initial flight, no further flights occurred until the end of the year. By then, engine problems were being addressed, but flight tests proceeded slowly due to ongoing issues with the undercarriage and engines. The engines produced thick black smoke and distinctive wingtip contrails, making the TSR-2 easily spotted in the air. Serious vibration issues related to the undercarriage caused violent jolting upon landing, and intolerable vibrations at certain throttle settings, which affected the pilot's vision. This was traced to a faulty fuel pump. Undercarriage problems extended beyond vibrations to include hydraulic and sequencing issues, with malfunctions ranging from doors refusing to close to one leg staying extended while others retracted correctly. On one occasion, the landing gears did not lock into position upon deployment. Despite attempts to fix the gear, the pilots decided to land, successfully rotating the bogies into place as the aircraft settled. Finally, on the 10th flight, after 4 months of attempts, the undercarriage was successfully retracted. Beaumont then decided that the prototype was ready to continue its flight test program at Wharton. Flight 14 marked the prototype's journey to Wharton, during which it went supersonic for the first and only time, reaching Mach 1.12 with one engine in reheat. This briefly left the accompanying Lightning chase aircraft behind until it engaged its own reheats to catch up, leading to the myth that the TSR-2 could outrun a Lightning, akin to a Volvo outrunning a Ferrari if the latter doesn't respond immediately. Despite this milestone, the TSR-2 program faced severe criticism. Poor management, lack of intercompany cooperation, an overly ambitious specification, and the introduction of numerous new technologies led to escalating costs and delays. Rumours of impending cancellation were rampant. In early 1965, national newspapers reported that an RAF team was in the USA considering the F-111 as a replacement for the TSR-2. reflecting the RAF's inclination towards the TFX since late 1964. An internal RAF report detailed the TSR-2's issues, rising costs, and anticipated maintenance challenges. Urgent discussions between BAC and the new Labour government took place, and a protest march in London saw 10,000 BAC and Hawker-Siddeley employees demonstrating against industry cuts. Despite strong government denials of cancellation, the Times remarked that these denials only heightened the industry's fears. The core issue was the TSR-2's soaring costs versus its diminishing capabilities. Development costs had repeatedly increased, and the programme had been under constant threat almost from its inception. The government considered the TFX a cheaper alternative and believed redundant aviation workers could be redirected to more productive work. BAC's inability to provide a guaranteed fixed cost, agreeing only to absorb losses up to a certain amount, further complicated matters. While the TSR-2's advanced design was undeniable, its specifications were continually downgraded for BAC to meet them, causing the RAF to lose confidence. The aircraft was burdened with new systems struggling to perform, including a bulky, already obsolete central computer that hampered the navigation and attack systems. The primary alloy used in its construction was found to be disastrously brittle, making the aircraft highly vulnerable to ground fire or even tool damage during maintenance. Engine change times exceeded specified limits due to the cramped engine bays, leading to maintenance difficulties similar to those experienced with the EE Lightning. Although many development issues were being gradually resolved, numerous problems seemed insurmountable without an endless influx of money. Meanwhile, the second prototype had undergone inspection and repairs after being damaged during delivery to Boscombe Down. It had literally fallen off a lorry. It was ready to fly by early April after repeated delays in receiving flight-capable engines. However, all this effort was in vain. It would never fly, as the government announced the immediate termination of the TSR-2 programme on Budget Day, April 6, 1965. At the time of the announcement, the aircrew were having lunch near Boscombe Down. Upon hearing the shocking news, they rushed back to the airfield in an attempt to get XR-220 airborne and present the government with a second flying aircraft. Permission was denied. BAC management had been informed prior to the budget speech, but were forbidden from telling their employees, who had to learn the news from the radio. The House of Commons was in an uproar over the cancellation, but no debate could take place during the budget speech, leaving BAC's workforce feeling disrespected. The government announced the cancellation of a major defence project without an opportunity for debate, a practice that has since become standard. A week later, a debate in the House was a challenging session for Dennis Healey, the new Minister of Defence, who tried to justify the cancellation by claiming that the F-111 could be bought more cheaply, though he could not provide a real cost or exact timeline. Redundancies in the UK aviation industry were now inevitable. In the months leading up to the TSR-2's cancellation, two of Hawker-Siddeley's major projects were also terminated: the HS-681 transport aircraft and the P-1154 tactical strike fighter, the supersonic Harrier. The P-1154 fell victim to infighting between the Navy and the Air Force, but some positives emerged from these cancellations. The P-1127, a less ambitious project, was allowed to continue and eventually became the Harrier, a highly successful VTOL light strike aircraft and fighter. The Harrier has been developed into various versions used by several countries, including the UK, USA, India and Italy. The P-1154 was replaced by the US-made F-4 Phantom, which was re-engined with British Spey engines. However, this combination resulted in British Phantoms being the most expensive and less performant compared to the original US models. The F-111 in the US also faced massive expenses and serious development problems, particularly with the US Navy's F-111B variant. In 1968, both the US Navy and the RAF cancelled their F-111 orders, partly due to the UK's economic difficulties and devaluation of the pound. The TSR-2 cancellation proved costly for Britain, not only due to wasted development, but also due to cancellation fees to General Dynamics. An attempt to develop a swing-wing aircraft with the French also failed. BAC survived the TSR-2 cancellation, with the Anglo-French Concorde supersonic transport being the only other major project not cancelled. While Concorde was not a massive commercial success, it provided BAC with valuable experience and prestige in advanced aircraft and international cooperation. The Seppicat Jaguar, which was akin to a baby TSR-2, furthered this experience and produced a highly useful strike aircraft, although it did not match the TSR-2's capabilities. This was followed by the MRCA project, a European collaboration that resulted in the Panavia Tornado, another successful aircraft. Interestingly, in 1979, there was a proposal to revive the TSR-2 program. An eccentric individual suggested modifications to modernize the aircraft, such as square intakes with variable ramps like Concorde, modern electronics, and Olympus 593 engines also from Concorde. He lobbied the government and RAF departments with letters advocating for the aircraft's resurrection. However, with the Tornado nearing its first flight, this idea went nowhere. Ultimately, the Tornado became more or less what the TSR-2 was intended to be. The fact that the Tornado, 15 years later, was still slightly less capable in some areas than the projected TSR-2 underscores how ambitious the TSR-2 specifications were and why the project became so expensive. Additionally, the TSR-2 was an all-British effort, whereas the Tornado required cooperation among 3 countries. The TSR-2 might not have been perfect and could have financially strained BAC and the RAF while facing a rocky service entry, but it still had the potential to be a world beater in its niche. This potential has given the TSR-2 a legendary status that no real aircraft could ever match. If you've made it this far, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps. Again, big thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring today's video. Make sure to check out War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation and Xbox. Use my link in the description or pinned comment to register. New players and those returning after 6 months get a huge bonus pack with premium vehicles, in-game currency and more. That's it for me today, and I'll catch you in the next video.